Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, I wanted to take a step back and think about real estate and investing in longer term assets, building generational wealth. I found the statistic. Now, I'm going to tell you that I honestly can't verify this, but using ChatGPT said that by 2150, the world's richest 1% will own two-thirds of the world's wealth, while the poorest 50% will own just 1%. So if you're not born into the top 1%, you better start building wealth now, or else you might be stuck fighting for the crumbs in the future. So we're going to talk a little bit about a topic today that is a way to actively work towards building longer term wealth and being more intentional about that. My guest today, Justin Moy, he is a long-term worker in the area of real estate investor. He started off as a broker, and he told me a story about the fact that he almost walked away from it. The whole concept of being 3 feet from gold. I'm gonna let him share that a little bit in a moment here, but thinking about that, when you are a miner or you are working in something that if you make that one more step, that one more shovelful can bring you into that treasure moment and you walk away, oh, the regrets you might have, but the joys you might experience if you keep pushing forward. So, Justin, thank you for joining us today.
Zach, I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, as I alluded to, you had your start in the area of real estate as a broker. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I was brokering single family homes in what's the East Bay area of California, meaning just
All
over
right.
the San Francisco Bridge.
All right. All right. That's a pretty nice area over there. Now,
Yeah.
as many people who don't know much about brokers and working in that type of a role, I think myself, I was very naive about that, and I always thought that a realtor, they just had houses coming to them, they had people coming to them, the
Yeah.
places they were working out of. That's not really how it works, though, is it?
Yeah. I mean, you might get there one day.
Hmm.
And you alluded to in the intro, there are some generational factors in that too, right?
Okay.
Where the East Bay in California was at the time, and I'm sure it still is somewhere up there, was the third most competitive market in the country in terms of real
Wow.
estate brokerage.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
homes were very expensive. My average home sale was $2.2 million. And so
Hmm.
you can do some napkin math on what some of those commissions were. So the competition was very, very fierce. And there
Yeah.
were a lot of people who were generational real estate agents. Their father or mother was an agent, their father or mother was an agent, and now they just graduated college and they inherit this big book of business.
Yeah.
I didn't. I didn't. I
Right.
too thought that I would have people coming to me saying, "Hey, please sell my home," but it,
Yep.
it really is not that at all. Especially when you're starting out, it is quite a grind.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest about 6 months that I ever worked without payment. And eventually, just like you said in the intro, I swung the shovel one more time and I hit some gold. So thankfully I trusted the process and kept going. But yeah, it's quite the grind out there.
Yeah. No, I think that's it's something that you have to do in any type of business, really, is
Yeah.
when you're getting started, be willing to make the efforts to continue to push forward, even when it is challenging, and
Yeah.
even when you don't know that you're going to produce that result with
Mhm.
today's effort, because you believe that you are going to produce the results with today's effort tomorrow, the next
Yeah.
day, the next day. You have to keep
Yeah.
believing in what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, as you had told me about that, that resulted in a fair, nice commission. That first deal that
Yeah.
you got into. So, about how much was that?
Yeah, so the commission ended up being my very first payday in real estate.
Hmm.
As I said, didn't come till after 6 months of being in the business.
Yeah.
And real estate agents, for anybody who doesn't know, and I think there's some structures that are different now, but back then it's
Yep.
just 100% commission.
Okay.
So if you don't sell, you don't eat, really, is the blunt way to put it. And what I would do is I would cold call people all day, right? So I was a telemarketer, a
Yep.
shameless telemarketer. I would call, between really 2 and maybe 10 hours a day, just looking for business, desperately
Yep.
looking for business. And 6 months go by and I have nothing. I mean,
Right.
literally not a single sale, not a good, hot lead. I haven't done a presentation and I had nothing. And I was so embarrassed of myself because I had told my friends, my family, hey, I'm in real estate now. That's kind of the first step.
Yep.
That's the first thing you do, right? Is tell everybody, you post on your
Absolutely.
Facebook and everything. And I was so embarrassed. I said, man, how am I going to tell everybody that, oh, I'm not in it anymore. People ask me how it's going.
Hmm.
I'm going to have to say, oh, I don't do that anymore. What's my
Yep.
excuse going to be? Is it the market? Oh no, the market's going great right now, actually. So I can't say
Yeah.
it's the market.
Right.
I was looking for my excuses and I told myself, this is it. I gave it 6 months. I have nothing. I worked my ass off. I'm just going to leave the office and I'm just not going to come back. I'll make sure I take
Yeah.
everything that's important to me and they won't see me here again.
Yep.
And right as I said that, what I used to do, one of the things was I would go on Craigslist and look for people who were selling their homes on their own, what we call for sale by owners.
Yep.
And I was cleaning up my headset and one more property showed up on Craigslist. It was the page that I had opened up. I hit refresh and one more property came up. And I just looked at that listing for so long and I said, "Oh, forget it. One more call and I never have to
Yep.
do this again." I've made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls. One more won't hurt. One more and when they tell me no, I'll pack up and I'll leave. Called that person, half-assed my script because I was done already, right? I mean, I was half packed up.
Right.
My desk was pretty much empty and she said, "Yes." She said, "Actually, yeah, why don't you come by tomorrow and kind of tell me what you can do?" And I had never been told yes before. I didn't even know what to say. It's, "Oh, okay, yeah, what about this time?" She said, "Yeah,
Yep.
that works for me." Okay, great. Ended up listing her home and she bought her next home with me. They closed on the same day and it ended up being a
Yep.
$60,000 net commission check to me. And
Yeah.
this was, about 12 years ago now, where
Yeah.
$60,000 it still is a considerable amount of money, but it was,
Absolutely.
significantly more than too. And I was an 18-year-old kid and I thought, "Oh my God, like I can do this. This
Yeah.
is the most amount of money I've ever seen, period." And I got it all in one day.
Right.
So it really was a big, big, hey, you have to trust the process. Don't
Yep.
focus on the outcome, focus on the process, and the outcomes will find their way to you.
Yeah. So taking those next steps, very much a literal one shovel more
Yeah.
story right there. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Now, that results in you catching the bug, like you said,
Mhm.
and from there, where did you continue to go? How did you do from there
Yeah.
in that role as a broker?
Yeah, it was great. I was in the biggest office in the area. By the next year, we were in the top 10 of brokers in that office, and it was the
Yeah.
biggest in the area. And so, I ended up doing very, very well for myself in that role. And in doing that, I kind of realized I was experiencing after a few years of doing that what I call entrepreneurial creep.
Okay.
And really, it's just that I
Hmm.
loved working really, really hard. I loved the grind, but I
Yep.
realized, man, I can't do this forever. And if I stop working this hard, does the money dry up? Because I was very
Right.
transactional, right? I'm
Yep.
always chasing the next deal. And those long hours, that stress put a lot of strain on my physical health, my mental health,
Sure.
my personal relationships. And I noticed those strains starting to have an effect on me. So I determined, okay, this isn't what I want to do forever. So how do I turn my money now into longer term wealth? How do I create more
Yeah.
freedom with myself? I worked with a lot of investors buying and selling single family homes. So I kind of saw the type of money they were making. I saw the lives they were living. I mean, every time I'd call them, they were on a plane or they were in
Hmm.
Japan or they were on an island somewhere. They had great lives. And I thought to myself, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to be
Sure.
an owner. I don't want to be the
Yeah.
transactional guy anymore. I don't want to get the big paycheck and leave. I want to own and create something long term. And that's what brought me into where I am now, which is I'm on the investor side, focused more on
Yep.
commercial and multifamily assets. But that's what triggered me to go from transactional riches to
Hmm.
longer term wealth.
Yeah. Now, how did you meet your partners that you're working with now? Because I mean, most of the people, when they're getting started
Mhm.
in something new, it is more advantageous to work with people who have additional experience than you,
Yeah,
and that can help kind of bring you alongside them to then also utilize your skill set to assist them.
yeah.
And to be honest, when I look at the pictures of you and your partners, you look like the rock star. And
Oh, I
and and
appreciate
and now,
that.
nothing to slight the gentleman that you're standing next to, but you got the hair, the tattooed gym rat is the little line underneath your name.
Yeah,
Um, you know, But yeah, talk about how
Yeah.
you met your partners.
Yes. So, when you're in this space, any kind of real estate and really any kind of business, networking is so big. And
Yep.
I'm a big believer in formal coaching programs or ones where you actually pay somebody for their advice and their guidance in creating this business that you're wanting to build.
Yeah.
And so I vetted a lot of companies and people who do formal coaching in the
Sure.
commercial and multifamily investing space. Picked one, went with it, and really dove into the program with both feet. I
Okay.
made myself really well known in the program. I was posting in our groups. I was asking questions. I was going up to all the virtual and in person events. And eventually, you just meet people, and those people know
Yeah.
people. And so one of my partners was in that group with me, and then our second partner was a business associate of the first.
Hmm.
And so we had all met up more than a couple of times. We had done one deal together, then two deals together, and then it became this more formal, company that we created.
Yeah.
And so really it happened a little bit more organically, but
Yep.
especially in the larger multifamily or commercial space, partnerships are enormous. It's very, very, very rare to have like a solo individual operator.
Right.
Teams are very heavily involved in these larger deals.
Yeah. So you identified right away the need to invest in yourself, joining
Yeah,
a mentorship coaching group, and then
absolutely.
developed relationships with people through that. And what you said, I put myself out there. I posted. I was involved in the virtual networking, the in-person networking, the
Yeah.
in-person events. That makes a big difference for people being aware of you and also your
Mhm.
interest in what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and they were serious about it too, right? Because this
yeah,
program had to be you had to pay to get in, and
yeah,
they're not cheap, and the
yep,
good ones typically are not. So you kind of get to filter people that way. You can definitely go to free events and free meetups.
yeah,
You just get different people along different stages of their business there, versus somebody who's willing to put down good money to actually
yeah,
take this to the next level. You're going to also have more opportunities there too. So I'm a big believer in formal coaching and mentoring programs. But if you don't want to do that or you can't do that right now, totally take advantage of the free stuff and anything that you can.
yeah, yep. Okay, so getting that start with using the free resources as you have them available, and then
Yeah.
getting into some of these paid groups, as you just mentioned. Someone who's willing to put down their own personal money to invest in their own selves
Yeah.
are going to be invested in the work that they're attempting to begin and are involved with now, so that
Mhm.
you know that that person is more serious about what they're doing. They're not simply testing the waters, as that you do
Exactly.
find in some of the free groups and free events that are
Yeah.
available.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so as you got started, the company is Realm Investors, right?
Correct. Yeah, realm
Okay.
just like Game of Thrones, like the realm of men. So yep.
Nice, nice. Is that where that came from?
No, it didn't. It really came from, us. And what we do now is essentially we help people invest passively in commercial
Yeah.
real estate assets.
Okay.
And our biggest goal was, hey, we want to help people achieve that next level of existence in their lives when
Yeah.
they're able to multiply their money, they're able to invest 100% passively, when they're able to focus on the things that matter to them most instead of buying and investing and managing real estate. And we kept saying that, what's their next level of life? What's their next level of life? And, we really came down to say, hey, that's like the next realm of existence for these people is when they're
Yeah.
able to replace their active income with passive income and open up just their entire lives. And
Yep.
so when we kept going back to that, we said, okay, realm, that's something that we'd love to see. We're helping people step into the next realm of their lives and their existence. And that's where the name came from. I just think the Game of Thrones reference helps people understand it a little bit more.
Yes. No, I think that's great. I like that. I like that story too, and that connections that you've made, and the power of partnership with people
Mhm.
that have also had additional experience as well. So,
Yeah.
what is your role within the company?
Yeah, so I talk with investors most of the time that I'm here.
Okay.
So, bringing on new investors, we love helping people invest in their first passive investment deals. So there's a lot of, education aspect of it. I run our podcast, which is Passive Real Estate Strategies. I do
Yeah.
like our newsletters, many investor calls. If people have questions, they'll book a call. 99% of the time, I'm the one doing those calls, and really doing a ton of education, speaking at events and podcasts and conferences. So
Yep.
that's what takes up a lot of my time. And that's what I found I love doing the most. is
Yeah.
talking about real estate and helping people understand, hey, these are some of the passive ways that you can build your wealth and build your passive income. And these are the different strategies people use. So that's what I do is I help educate our investors, both existing and potential new investors.
Okay. All right. And how many years ago did you guys get kind of more formal relationship as a
Yeah.
partnership?
Yeah. This was about 5 years ago at this
Okay.
point. Yeah.
How many
So pretty
projects have you
decent amount
done
of
then?
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5
So,
years to working together, but also, of course, you've all had your own individual experiences prior to that, I
right.
know. Um,
Yep.
but yeah,
Yeah.
since then, how many projects have you guys done together?
Yeah, we've done just shy of 10 projects together. So we pace, about 2 a year, which is a
Okay.
healthy pace, especially given
Yeah.
how on fire the market has been the past couple of years, where things kind of
Yep.
slowed down on a buy side, because prices just shot up so much. But we're
Sure.
anticipating that starting to pick up here in the next probably 1 to 2 years, where the market will cool down a little bit and there'll be a lot more opportunities with distressed debt coming due. So yeah, I think that's going to pick up now. So now is a really exciting time for people to get in the game.
Yeah. Someone who is less familiar with real estate might think of this as a risky investment only
Mhm.
because of that lack of familiarity.
Sure.
When you get asked that question, what's your response to somebody who says, I'm just not comfortable or I'm not
Mhm.
feeling quite comfortable with this. I'm familiar with the stock market.
Yeah.
Tell me about your response to that question.
Yeah, my response always starts with a disclaimer that all investment has risk.
Yep.
And, you should understand the risk of going into whatever you're going to do. The stock market has risk. I mean, the stock market's lost
Hmm.
which about 20% of people's investment over the past couple of years.
Right.
So everything has risk. Now, when it comes to real estate investing, historically speaking, the returns have been higher than the stock
Hmm.
market. The tax benefits have been significantly greater than the
Yep.
stock market. Your returns are significantly more predictable, and you actually get impact on your life now because you can actually take cash flow that's generally speaking tax free. Consult your own CPAs, but
Yep.
99 out of 100 times that's tax free, and you actually get cash flow coming in now. So that money impacts your life now, not just throwing it into a retirement account or the stock market and you got to
Right.
wait till you're 65 to touch it. So there's a ton of benefits to it. Now, what I always tell people is uncomfortability comes from lack of information. So,
Yeah.
what kind of information do you need to make yourself comfortable? And I think information is the key part to it. That's why a lot of people they're much more comfortable investing in like an apartment building versus maybe a strip mall. Because
Yep.
at least most people understand apartment living. They've probably lived in apartments before. They kind of get residential housing. But when it comes
Yep.
to maybe a retail center or a medical center, they might shy away, which is totally fine. But, lack of comfortability always comes from a lack of knowledge or understanding. So my question really would be, what kind of information can I get you that'll
Right.
help you understand things a little bit better, because the data is all there that real estate has been a pretty superior investment relative to the stock market, especially since the 80s and the 90s. That's really
Yeah.
when the stock market boomed and did really, really, really good. And then
Yep.
since then, it's kind of tapered off and it's had a lot more volatility. So I think changing with the times too, and talking about the historicals of the two asset classes is important to understand.
Yeah. So having the data, showing the data, and also identifying where that person is at and what they need
Yeah,
to help them understand or become more educated about this type of an investment strategy.
yeah,
Now, building long-term wealth, that term or that title of this particular episode.
yeah,
Now, I think that most people that I encounter, I mean, I talk with a lot more entrepreneurs now than I ever used to, but a lot of people I encounter are thinking more about today. They're thinking
mhm,
more about this year and how they're going to be able to pay their bills and maybe some
yeah,
vacation they're going to go on. But there is a lot more to longer term wealth building than just today
mhm,
and
yeah,
thinking about the future. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on long term wealth building and utilizing real
mhm.
estate as a strategy in that?
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting because you mentioned, you talk a lot too, and the show has a lot of listeners who are entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And entrepreneurs are actually some of our most popular investments group or niche
Investors, yeah,
because entrepreneurs understand that delayed gratification. They
Sure.
understand, hey, if I don't take the vacation now, I can take 10 more vacations in a couple of years if I just keep building,
Yes.
this business or building my life.
Yep.
And investing is the same. When you invest in private investments like real estate, generally speaking, this may vary, but most people are investing between 25 and $50,000 like at once
Mhm.
in one investment.
Yep.
Now, most of the time, if you're able to do that, you probably not in the 66% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. So that's typically not the conversations that we're having. But
Right.
yeah, you have to understand that what you're doing now is buying your time for later.
Yep.
You're buying future time, and that's what's most important. A lot of people who we work with now, they make great money now. They can afford to take vacations if they want, but they understand if they do those things now, they're going to pay for it down the road versus they could flip that and pay
Yep.
for it now and buy themselves the time in the future. So a lot of our investors are entrepreneurs, and I think that's part of the reason because they get that. They get, hey,
Yep.
work hard now, build this thing now, so in the future I can have more choice, freedom of choice. So
Yeah.
it's really about what kind of life you want. And again, most of the investments are a little bit higher ticket than just, hey, throw in $100 in the stock market. So generally
Sure.
speaking, the conversation isn't really around like, hey, can I pay my bills next month? It's how do I really set myself up for success in
Yep.
the future, my family or my kids for success in the future.
Yeah. Yep. And that longer term thinking is more a multiplication factor
Yeah.
than current addition in this year, but thinking
Exactly.
about how you can multiply not only your money, but also your time and opportunity in the future. So,
Exactly. Yep.
all right. So, one of the questions I love to ask is if you are approached by someone who is just wanting to get involved in entrepreneurship in any capacity, whether real
Yeah.
estate or otherwise, what tips you might provide, like perhaps one or two big tips that you'll give somebody if they're talking about business with you.
Yeah. And so if somebody's looking to start their own business,
Yeah,
what tips?
somebody that's looking
Yeah.
to start their own business and they're just exploring or testing the waters, but they know that
Yeah.
you've had some success in an area of business and they're
Mhm.
just having a conversation.
Yeah, here's what I would say. There's a quote that it's interesting because I really, really like it, but I always forget who said it. I think it was like
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln or something like that. And it's something along the lines of, hey, if you gave me 5 hours to chop down this tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe.
Hmm.
And so to me, before you jump into that business, you've got to sharpen your axe, dive
Yeah.
into that industry. A lot of times, if people want to open businesses, they might be personally passionate about what they're doing, but is there a sustainable way to make the kind of money that you want to make doing that thing? There probably is, but you need to figure out how to do it. So do a lot
Yep.
of research. Look for influencers in that space. Look for blogs about that space. Reach out to the blog writers or different podcasts like these in that space. Reach out to the hosts and just ask them questions. A lot of people who produce a lot of educational content love it when people reach out. I have a podcast. When people reach out
Yeah.
to me, it's like my favorite thing ever. Like, hey, I heard you on your podcast and I had this question.
Right.
It's like, oh my God, that's so cool. And same thing with the blog. I've had people say, hey, I read your blog and I just want to ask you. It's like that stuff is so awesome for people like you and me
Yeah.
who produce this stuff. So don't be shy to reach out. Always reach out to those people. Say, hey, I saw you had a podcast about a tile business. I
Yep.
would love it. I'm
Yep.
thinking about opening a tile business myself. Do you mind if we connect for a little bit? I bet you 80 to 90% of the time that person's going to say yes quickly. And the other 10 to 20%, they're going to say yes in a couple of weeks when they just see your message.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
most of the people are all very open to those things. So you've got to sharpen your axe a lot. Ask people a ton of questions. The biggest thing that drives people out of business early is just the cost of mistakes. So if
Sure.
you could get some mentorship and avoid those mistakes, your chances of success are going to be significantly higher.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like just the preparation as you get
Hmm.
started and really looking at who is doing this type of work and reaching out.
Yeah.
Sometimes is a fear that people have about putting themselves out there and reaching out to someone. But
Yeah.
like you also said, you'd be surprised at how quickly people are responsive to wanting to share what they know
Yeah.
and what they've experienced. I've
Hmm.
encountered that myself. So just reaching out. I mean, the worst that they can say is no.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you reach out to the next person.
Yeah, and they probably won't even say no, they probably just won't say anything, so you'll forget
Yeah.
anyways by the next day that
Yep.
you even emailed this person, so, yeah,
Right.
just reach out, but again, I bet you 90% of the time they're gonna say yes, I know I do. I respond to every single inquiry. I've even had people say, "Hey, I'm just writing a college paper. I'm
Yeah.
not going to invest, but I wanted to ask you some questions so I can finish my college paper." Absolutely. Why
Excellent.
wouldn't I
Yeah.
help this person? So yeah, a lot of
Right.
people in space like us, we do this because we want to help and we want to bring
Yeah.
knowledge to other people. It's exactly what we're looking to do.
Absolutely. Bringing value to others in the work that we're
Yeah,
doing. So I
exactly.
appreciate that. Now, my $1 million question: if you were to be handed $1 million, no restraints on it, what would you do with that today and why?
Yeah. Oh man. I would say if I can hold it for about a year or two, that would be great
Yep.
because I think the market is gonna start to slow down a little bit. There'll be a lot of buying
Okay.
opportunities over this year and next year, where a
Sure.
majority of distressed debt is due to come up. And I would keep buying real estate. I would keep buying
Yeah.
real estate. I keep investing um, in some different asset classes. Right now, we are running a short-term rental fund that is it's going to have about 120 Airbnb properties across 10 states.
Nice.
I would
Okay.
keep pushing into that because those returns have been just gangbusters. Um,
Right.
and I would look for emerging asset classes. One thing that I'm excited about is data centers with the
Yep.
explosive growth of AI and how difficult it is to build these data centers that can really process that type of energy and power. It takes a long
Yeah.
time. So that's
Okay.
another asset class that I like. So, I would keep doing the short-term rental fund that we're running now. I would
Yep.
um, keep looking for deals in the multifamily and commercial space, and I would explore some other opportunities in asset class
Yeah.
that are a little bit newer, like data centers.
Yes. And with that knowledge that you have, you just indicated that you would also consider holding, which and looking
Yeah,
for those opportunities that are going to come up in this near future. So now, if
exactly.
anyone does want to reach out to you, what is the best way for someone to connect with you?
Yeah, if you're interested in passive real estate investing, I have an ebook for you that's going to be the absolute best free resource for passive investors. It's called The
Okay.
Definitive Guide to Passive Real Estate Strategies. I would
Yep.
download that at thedefinitive.guidebook.com. And once you
Okay.
do, you'll get an email from me. I'll actually send you a personal video message from my phone. They're not automated or AI. I'd send them myself because I really want to introduce myself. And then once you get that message, all my info will be at the bottom. You can reach out with any questions you've got, but it's thedefinitive.guidebook.com.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to Justin. He'd love to share some of his experience, education, resources. It starts there if you're not
Mhm.
familiar with this type of an investment strategy. But it's an excellent way to diversify and to get into an area that, for some, didn't even realize would be an opportunity because a lot of people don't want to deal with tenants, termites, and toilets. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
but
Yep.
well, Justin, I appreciate your time today and sharing your story and your experiences. And really, thank you again. Look forward to continuing to see the good work that you're doing.
Awesome, Zach. This was an awesome experience. I hope the audience liked it. And of course, just reach out with anything that you may need.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.